building that Luis has been working on here for our last edition of Bamboo U for the year. So this is going to be a area that we're calling the BOH because it's going to be the back of house for the Kul Kul Farm. And it's really exciting because we're using a great technique that we haven't done a lot in Bali, but it's very applicable around the world, which is the interlocking joint system. And it's also very replicable. So it's the same kind of pattern over and over again. So Luis, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing.
So it's very interesting to look at this model because if we look at as a floor plan, then you can start understanding certain modules. So the idea behind this project is that during the course, people can get all the knowledge to build something very similar back home. So they can do one module, or they can do two modules, or even if they want to extend this one, they can do it. So it was very interesting to show them from how to build the columns, how to build the A-frames until the stage that we're now after 5 days.
Awesome.
So we started with the columns. So all the foundations were poured. The concrete was poured here on site before we start the course. So once people arrive here, we explain them how to do these interlocking columns, because it's very interesting that you can find like this kind of bamboo. We're using Dendrocalamus asper, bamboo petung here in Bali, but you can always use any other kind of material. For example, bamboo tali. You can use wadwa bamboo. It depends on the country that you will be. So after doing the columns, we start adding those those pieces, small pieces that will add a lot of strength on those columns. So you can see that in this model, the columns go here, but we have them like an extension. So then after that, we can cut flush.
Yeah, and I think it's fun that theoretically, right, you could use these interlocking points to make connections, right? If you wanted to have a scaffolding for your walls, or even from here, that could have actually created the triangle. But I like just like the design feature where we actually increased the height of the roof, so we could bring large. To use this for storage, so that's really fun. And then I also like how it uses these 4 columns, because then it really eliminates the need for a lot of complicated joinery. Because you can do each piece just slides really nicely. Did you find that it slide nicely during construction?
In some of them, like not all the interconnection and not all the beams were sliding very easy.
It was like hard to get them in.
Some of them, they were hard, but the good thing is that everything was tied just with plastic rope before. So before we started adding like the rods, then you were able to move them a little bit. And it was very easy because you have enough bamboo and the length, so you can open it and then just slide the piece. So you can see also the next step was putting all these beams. So they are 12 meters long. So the very interesting thing about this is that, of course, we don't have 12 meters long bamboo poles. So we did a connection on top of each column, meaning that we have one 4 meters long beam and then 5 meters long here. So the connection, so all the forces and the stress is on top of the column.
Yeah, so that, and then you've got 2 beams, which increases the redundancy. And so tell us a little bit, so how long did it take you to do the first step of putting these main columns in?
So the main columns, we did that in the first day and half of the second day. The first day it was like just half day, so we were working on that. We prefab a couple of columns with the carpenters also to understand how we are going to be building those with the participants of the course, but it was actually very fast. I mean, I'm very happy that we had around 7 or 8 participants plus 2 carpenters here, and they were all excited and they were all super committed to the process of building the entire construction. So 2 days for the columns, and then we started also at the same time preparing the beams. So just here in this side, we were like selecting the bamboo poles, trying to find the best fit because the diameter changed. So finding the right fit here and then putting the bamboo on top. So we have like all full of scaffolding around, so we were able to climb and start putting all the pieces together. So interesting thing is that you have the column, then you put the beam, and then on top of that you add the first A-frame.
Yeah.
And then you stack on top a next beam, and so on. So everything is a step by step, if you look at it like that.
Yeah, so these beams had to come in after the A-frames went in. Because you couldn't just slide the A-frames through. Yeah. I mean, what do you think now that you've done it the first time? What do you think about the difference between if we do it like this versus if we made one of these frames on the ground and then tried to lift it into place with like a crane or a tripod?
So I guess that it really depends. If we did that, if we were about to do this same frame with a crane, maybe I would take out some pieces from the A-frame, because then the complicated thing will be adding this long beam. So it will be very difficult to slide
it through. Yeah.
So
because they vary, the bamboo bends, so it varies in how much you can put through. Yeah.
So we decided better just to put one by one and one stacking on top of the other. Same thing, for example, with the ridge beam here on the top.
Yeah.
So we put the ridge beam, level it, and then just start adding the A-frame. So it was actually easier. If you want to do, for example, the column with the A-frame and then just put it up with a crane, of course, first you need the crane.
Yeah.
And then carry that frame and put it in place. But yeah, I guess that the complicated thing would be adding these beams. If you don't have that amount of beams, because we have 4 that will allow you to do like some openings, the skirt roof, have ventilation, and also a nice detail.
Yeah, so you'd have to basically change these details and make them on the outside so it wouldn't look as elegant. Awesome.
So it was very nice to have all the participants working, because we create sort of like teamwork, very nice, that there were a couple of participants on top of one scaffolding, a couple here, also the carpenters helping, carrying the bamboo from the ground, carrying some tools, etc. And also it's very nice to see that we just power tools that we use, it was just a drill, and the rest, it was a knife, it was handsaw, and that's it. And grinder for the rods.
Yeah, and it's really good for them to get a sense of, I mean, it's one thing to design this building, right? It's another thing to learn all the steps and the complexity of building it. So, I mean, as always, great to have another group at Bamboo U building something cool. I can't wait for it to get done. What's the next step now that they've got the A-frames in? And it looks like the beams, a lot of the cross beams are in. What's the next step?
So the next step, now that we have all these long beams, the next step is putting the cross bracing. So you can see there's one cross bracing here in each module. So each module should have its own cross bracing that will support the entire structure in this movement. So if you try to move now the entire structure from this side and try to move the entire building in this direction, it will move a little bit. But once we add the cross bracing, it will give a lot of rigidity to the building. So that will be the next step. And then if we look at our model like that, we will add all the rafters.
And what kind of roof are we going to put on here?
We're thinking to do clay tiles. So that's also something for people that are following us, is that we try to use a lang or thatch roof or flattened bamboo as a roofing material for the constructions. But this also will give you the idea that you can always use clay tiles, you can always use any other material that maybe require less maintenance.
Yeah, and I think also just because it's a nice flat roof without much variation, a lot of things we do are curvy and beautiful, but then that limits the kinds of roofs you can put on it. So I think it's fun to do it. And it's also gonna, once it gets kind of mossy, it'll look really natural. So get a lot of a lot of it'll end up being really beautiful, even though it's a very simple structure.
Yeah, and finally, the other thing that then is up to you if you want to do something similar, you have already these frames to build any kind of wall. So it already have like sort of like some pockets that you can slide through a window or a wall and actually show the column as it is. So then you can do a smaller or thin wall here.
Yeah.
So because everything is modular, you have 4 meters from center point to center point of the foundation, then you already know how big can be your wall, your window, or any other kind of element that is missing.
And we're looking forward to experimenting with some really beautiful, bamboo sawdust walls.
Yes, true.
In these that will be used for the waste we get from making our splits. So that'll be really fun.
Yeah, and also another thing to consider is that we're going to increase the level of the floor just to add a nice floor there. That's why you have like this height. We have 50 centimeters now from the foundation. At the end, like the finish level of that floor will be around 30 centimeters. So we can increase around 20 with the finishing of the floor.
Yeah, keep our bamboo dry here in the rainy, it's raining really hard right now. So keeping our bamboo dry here in the tropics is very important.
Yeah, we were working under the rain, and if it was not raining, it was sunny and it was super hot. So we didn't find like a middle point between. So now, unfortunately, it's not raining, but it was fun. It was super fun.
Awesome. Thanks for the update, Luis. And thanks for listening, folks. If you're interested in learning more about how to build bamboo, we have another Bamboo U coming up in March. March 2025. Check out our website. Follow us to learn more.
Bye.
Bye, guys.